We blame ourselves for having no willpower when we've just been given the wrong advice, particularly women. We're all told that we're supposed to restrict and count calories. As women, we'll lose around 1% of our lean muscle tissue every year after the age of 35 if we're not strength training.
Really?
A muscle is metabolically active tissue. Aching joints, brain fog, weight gain, no energy. When you talk to your girlfriends, they'll probably tell you the same thing, so you normalise it and think it's acceptable. It's not acceptable.
What about weight loss drugs like Ozempic? Are they safe? Is it good to have coffee or bad to have coffee? This is Fernwood Unfiltered, the podcast for straight up expert-backed advice on women's health and fitness. If you're constantly tired, struggling with stubborn weight, or feel like your body just isn't responding the way it used to, this episode's for you. Whether you're in your 20s, 30s or beyond, understanding your metabolism can truly change the game. Listen, learn, and share this with someone who needs it. Donna Aston is one of Australia's leading nutritionists. With over 30 years in the health and fitness space, she's the founder of AstonRX, a science-led organisation with programs to help improve metabolic health and gut function. Donna's also a coach, author, and passionate advocate for making nutrition simple, sustainable, and science-based. Donna, welcome. Welcome to Fernwood Unfiltered.
How exciting. Thank you so much for having me.
I've got to say, simple, sustainable and science-based, that sounds very appealing to me. What led you there? Why has that become such a focus for you?
There's so much conflicting information available, now with social media. We're all exposed to all conflicting information about this topic, and everybody's an expert. So I think it's really important to pull all of that back to basic, simple information that is a trusted source of truth and that is backed by science.
For the woman who's listening to us chat right now, what do you think that they will take away by the end of our chat?
I want her to know that her metabolism is not broken. It's just misunderstood. So regardless of your goal, whether it be weight loss, weight gain, building muscle tissue, reducing inflammation, lowering your cholesterol, removing some belly fat, it doesn't matter what the goal is, you'll learn something from this episode.
Let's get into it. Metabolism. For me, I feel it's just that throwaway line of everyone over the course of my life, whether it be my mum or an auntie or a second cousin twice removed, who's saying, oh no, it's just I don't have a very fast metabolism. A lot of the time, that's what they say. My metabolism, it's not this, it's not this. What is our metabolism? What does it do?
Great question. And it's always, again, associated with weight. We think about fast and slow metabolism as to whether or not we can lose weight. And so I think that's the first issue. Metabolism is basically just our body's ability to turn the food we eat into energy. That's essentially what our metabolism is. It involves every cell in our body, from hormones to our liver to all of our different organs, fat cells, and that's how our body turns energy or our food into usable energy.
So what affects it?
So many things. So many things.
Okay, I'm listening. Yep.
So, obviously what we eat will have an impact. It goes so far beyond calories. And I know we've been taught that. And I think as women, particularly women probably over 40, have grown up with this low fat, low calorie, monotonous task of just counting calories to lose weight. And our body is so much smarter than that, and it's so much more complex. And I think it's oversimplifying it to narrow it down to that. So our metabolism will slow if we are stressed, if we're not sleeping properly. Some medications can impact it. One of the biggest is muscle loss, because as women, we'll lose around 1% of our lean muscle tissue every year after the age of 35 if we're not strength training.
Really?
So that is our metabolic engine. Our muscle is metabolically active tissue. So if that's shrinking, our requirement for food becomes less, but we don't eat less. And so this starts to snowball into what you may call a slow metabolism.
How would you rank Australians' literacy when it comes to metabolic health?
Poor, because the information, again, is so conflicting.
What do you think is the biggest misconception and possibly the biggest misconception that's done the most damage to people?
Eat less, move more. I'd say it's such a common thing. We're
Yeah.
all told that we're supposed to restrict and count calories and eat a lot less food. And we have to do cardio like crazy people.
Yeah.
And particularly women, it's all about being thin and light as opposed to being healthy and strong.
Do you think that that's changing?
I hope so. There's glimmer of it. I think there's a certain generation, mine and probably 10 years younger than me, that are really stuck in such a strong belief system about calories in and calories out through not really understanding how it runs so much deeper than that. And I think it's a very hard thing to break.
Where do hormones come into all of this as well? I'm beginning my journey in trying to understand my body when at a hormonal level and how that affects everything I do at the ripe old age of 34. I'm a bit behind. But how do our hormones affect how we're feeling and our metabolic health?
Well, it works both ways, really. And when we talk about hormones, it's not just the hormones you're thinking of. So when we think hormones as women, we think about estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and the sex hormones.
Mm.
Insulin is a hormone. Like there's all these other hormones that are involved in our metabolism, and they're all intricately linked. And it's like an orchestra in your body and everything plays a role. And it's all linked back to your metabolic health. So even your fat cells and your muscle cells are part of your endocrine system, which is your hormone system. And so if you have higher levels of stored body fat, you produce more estrogen and you're at higher risk of estrogen-driven cancers, for example. So everything is linked. And this is what people often don't realize. They try to separate out all of these things, but they're all very much tied together.
When you say insulin, because I think, again, this is my own ignorance here, I just think about people who have diabetes whenever I think of insulin. So what is its role in our bodies?
Has so many roles in our body. It's involved in just about every process in our metabolic system, but it's one of its primary roles that it's known for is it's released to help shuttle glucose into your cells. So
Why is that important? What does that mean?
well, that's how we create energy. So when you eat or drink anything, you're going to get a rise in your blood glucose or your blood sugar, and your pancreas pumps out a hormone called insulin. And insulin's job is to grab hold of that glucose and push it into your cells. If it becomes overwhelmed, so we're either eating too frequently, too much refined carbohydrate, too much volume of food, or we're stressed, doesn't even have to be food related, our glucose remains high. And when that happens, insulin becomes overwhelmed and our cells become a bit deaf to insulin and it can't actually do its job. And that's called insulin resistance. And when that happens, our glucose keeps rising. So our body compensates by producing more and more and more insulin. Insulin makes us hold fluid, which pushes up our blood pressure. It makes us store fat around our belly and it stops us from accessing stored fat for fuel.
My train of thought got completely derailed because you mentioned the fat stored around your belly. How do we get rid of that?
The biggest thing for losing any body fat is something called metabolic flexibility.
Oh,
So
okay.
our body should be agile enough to be able to switch between burning either of the two sources of fuel we have available to us. That's either glucose or stored body fat. They're the two choices we have. Our body only holds about 1,000 calories worth of glucose. So we can use that up fairly quickly. We have well over 200,000 calories of stored body fat on us. We've evolved through feast and famine. And the reason that we store fat is for later. It's like our reserve tank. So you can imagine if you've got plenty of glucose in your blood all the time, you don't need the reserve tank. And so to be able to lose body fat, you need to be insulin sensitive. You need to have metabolic flexibility to allow your body to hear insulin's message and push it into the cells and to allow us to use fat for fuel, which is why we put it there in the first place.
Do you find that a lot of your clients, people that you've worked with, come to you with similar kinds of questions, whether that be a competitive athlete, whether it be someone overweight trying to lose weight, whether that be someone who's severely underweight. Is there a commonality between all of them?
There is, and it's perpetuated by the huge influx of conflicting information available and the fact that it just doesn't work and it's wrong. And we blame ourselves, particularly women, for following the wrong advice. We didn't know it was wrong, but we blame ourselves for having no willpower when we've just been given the wrong advice. And that's what really upsets me when it comes to that conflicting information. And the fact that it doesn't work leaves people feeling frustrated and asking the same questions.
How do you switch that mindset?
You learn about your body. You learn about how it works. You learn you need the instruction manual that nobody gave us. And once you understand your body, like anything, once you can make sense of it, then you start to experience the difference that makes, which will further consolidate that belief is now correct. And then you live your life in a very different way, and your body, instead of working against it, you start to work with it.
Well, let's keep turning the pages on this instruction manual. If you are enjoying this episode and you're getting a lot out of it, like I am myself, make sure that you share it with those in your life who need to hear this too. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for a gym that's welcoming, safe, and just for women? You have to experience Fernwood Fitness. Designed for women, by women, our clubs have everything you need under one roof. World-class strength training, reformer Pilates, yoga, luxurious change rooms with daily essentials, and even a members lounge with tea, coffee, and complimentary breakfast. Book a free tour today and feel the Fernwood difference for yourself. Visit fernwoodfitness.com.au.
How do you think a person's knowledge or understanding of metabolism, perhaps more misunderstanding of metabolism, how do you think that affects their goals?
We always think about it in relation to how much we weigh and whether or not we can lose weight. And it's got nothing to do with weight. Yes, look, that's one side effect. However, if your goal is about sleeping better, about having more energy, getting rid of brain fog, working your way through hormonal fluctuations, doesn't matter what your goal is. Once you understand your metabolism, you'll be on top of it.
What are most of your clients' goals, do you think?
Usually initially to lose weight, and that's because that's what they can see. And I think we accept a lot of things that happen to us as, oh, that's normal. It's common, but it's not normal. So aching joints, brain fog, weight gain, feeling like you've got no energy, poor sleep, these things are common. And when you talk to your girlfriends, they'll probably tell you the same thing. So you normalize it and think it's acceptable. It's not acceptable.
This is me to a T. I don't think I have met a woman who, if I ask how is she, she's not at least trying to not say tired. Like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. Some of that could just be a poor night's sleep, but there's so much else going on, isn't there?
There is, and it comes down again to this metabolic flexibility. So if your body is unable to push your energy, your glucose, into your cells, you will have brain fog. You will have those 3:00 in the afternoon slumps where you feel like you need sugar or coffee or both. You're going to be gaining weight. You're probably not going to be exercising as much because you feel so tired and worn out. So these things are all fixable.
How do we fix them?
We increase our metabolic flexibility, and it's about the foods you're choosing. It's about the exercise that you do, even about the timing of your meals.
This is what I'm interested in. I'm very interested in the timing because in my mind, just everyday life, it's like, well, you have breakfast, then you have lunch, then I'm going to have a snack, then I'm having dinner at some time. But some days, these are all at completely different hours. Is that something I should be doing, or should I be looking at the clock more closely?
Everyone has a circadian rhythm, our 24-hour body clock. And the master clock is in your brain, and every single cell in your body has a clock. And they all need to be in sync.
Oh, it's bad news for me. I don't look at any clocks. It's bad news for me. Okay, yep.
We know how bad we feel with jet lag. You know, it's awful. You can barely drag yourself out of bed. Then you're awake in the middle of the night. You feel awful. So that's your circadian rhythm out of sync. And then after a few days, it will get back in sync. Well, they've done studies where they've taken two groups of people, fed them exactly the same food, exactly the same number of calories, but at different ends of the day. Those who ate their food earlier in the day lost weight and felt better and improved their health. Those who ate towards the end of the day and after dark all gained weight, felt tired, and had health issues just from the timing of the food. So your circadian rhythm dictates how your body processes food at what time.
Really? Does this also link then to when you should be training? So you mentioned resistance training earlier on in the episode, and that's something that I've undertaken very recently and I adore it. I love it very much. It makes me feel really good. But are there certain hours of the day that I should be doing that versus not?
Look, I usually say to people when it comes to training, the best time to do it is when you can.
Yep.
Because then you'll be consistent with it. Your circadian rhythm would tell you you'd have the highest level of strength and energy at 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Oh.
But if that's not convenient, which most of us are still at work, then that would be silly to try and do it then because you'll probably never do it. The worst time to exercise is late at night because it raises your temperature. And for you to fall asleep, your body needs to lower your temperature to its lowest point and start producing melatonin, both of which are stopped if you either eat or exercise late.
Everyone just keeps telling me if you want to lose weight, feel great, get into a calorie deficit. Is that true?
It's not true. And we put far too much emphasis on calories, which is really oversimplifying the way our body functions and the way our metabolism works. It's more about the metabolic impact that each calorie has. Protein has a very small impact on our blood glucose and insulin. Fat has almost none. And carbohydrates are quite high. If they're high in fiber, it's better. If they're refined, it'll send it through the roof. And this is what determines whether or not you'll store excess body fat or whether you'll burn it. So they've done studies where they take a petri dish in a lab and they fill it with fat cells and calories. It's swimming in a sea of calories. Nothing happens. You get a dropper of insulin, drop it in, and all of the calories are sucked up into the fat cells.
Really?
Because insulin tells the calories what to do. They don't know what to do without insulin. And when insulin is too high, then it thinks you've got so much blood sugar, it needs to be pushing that either into your cells or if you overdo it, into your fat cells. And it won't let you start releasing more energy from the reserve tank. Why would you? You've got so much energy already in your blood.
How much protein should women, in particular, let's focus on us, how much protein should we be eating a day?
It varies for people. Look, the standard RDA for it is too low. It's about 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight, which is low. I usually say somewhere between 1.2 to 1.5 grams per kilo, but keep in mind that it's lean weight. So if you're 30 kilos overweight, you would be eating a ridiculous amount of protein if you calculate it on your total weight. So our lean weight is our skeleton, our metabolically active tissue like muscle, and then the body fat's on top of that.
Why is it so important to kind of rewire our brains into not just believing restricting our diet is the best way forward?
It doesn't work. And if you've ever done it, and I know that every female watching this has done it at some stage, we've all done it. And we should now know that it doesn't work. And if you have to keep doing it over and over and over again and restarting every Monday, it didn't work. And so we should, they say the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect something different to happen. So let's stop that and start learning more about how our body functions and how we can keep our insulin levels low, how we can fuel our muscles and keep our metabolism firing on all cylinders.
How do we stop the snacking? Because full disclosure, I'm a big snacker.
Snacking comes from, it's our culture of, sometimes
Grazing.
we just go through our day grazing. It usually comes from not eating adequate meals and being insulin resistant. So when you're insulin resistant, you can't access stored fat. So once your glucose runs low, you need some more. And so your hunger's quite urgent and you're craving. When you're metabolically flexible, as soon as your glucose drops low, you're in the reserve tank and your blood is flooded with fat from your fat cells for fuel, not hungry. And that's the first thing people notice. They actually get really worried when they start doing our program because they say, why aren't I hungry? Like my appetite's gone. I went without lunch today. I forgot. And I've never done that. And it's quite empowering to know that you're not driven by the next snack and the next meal.
That would be quite freeing, I feel.
Very. It's so much easier when you're not panicked about where your next meal's coming from or feeling, a bit lightheaded or a bit shaky. This is not normal. This is common, but it's not normal. Ideally, if you had breakfast somewhere between 6 and 8 a.m., you had lunch between 12 and 1, and you have dinner between 5 and 7, and you have at least a 5-hour gap in between meals, minimum 12-hour overnight fast every night, that's a good start.
Why is it so important as women age in particular for us to have a focus on strength training?
Well, we lose a significant amount of muscle as we age, so it becomes very difficult to maintain muscle. I know now that it's much harder for me to gain muscle and I lose it very easily. So that just means I need to be more consistent. I used to get away with being erratic with weight training in my 30s, but now I have to be really consistent. If you don't have strong muscle and you don't have well-conditioned insulin-sensitive muscle, then your metabolic system starts to break down and become less efficient, which means you'll gain weight, you can have higher cholesterol, you'll have high blood pressure, all of these things start to creep in. They're not all different problems. They're all part of the same source. The other thing is if you don't have strong muscles pulling on your bones, then you're going to end up with osteopenia and then osteoporosis. And once your bones are gone, that's it. And our skeleton has to last us the rest of our life.
Gosh, when you say it like that, I'm like, oh my goodness, my whole head just started ringing in alarm bells when you're like, erratic training in your 30s. I was like, that's me.
Well, with bone mass, we reach our peak bone mass at about 25 years old, which means that's it. So it's only downhill from there. We start to lose bone after that. So if you don't reach a good peak by 25 years old, which really scares me when it comes to some restrictive diets that younger women are following, if you don't reach that peak by 25 years old, you will have osteoporosis by the time you're 50.
This is the thing that people, I don't think, quite understand or even care about when they're younger in particular, because you just want to look good. You want to follow the trends. If that's a particularly skinny trend on TikTok, you're doing everything that someone's telling you to do on there, regardless of their background or their qualifications. With those restrictive diets, what's your takeaway from them? Have they always existed? Are they worse now? Like, where are we at?
They've always existed. I've seen ads that people have sent me from like the 50s where they said, have a Lucky Strike cigarette and stay away from the sweets. The things they used to tell us to do. Yes, smoke instead of eating.
Yeah, great.
So that kind of restriction has always been there, as has the great calorie myth, and very little knowledge and education about how our body actually works.
What about then this influx that we're seeing of weight loss drugs like Ozempic? What damage potentially could they be doing, or are they safe? Are they good?
It's different for everybody, and there is cases where they are needed. They're actually originally a diabetic drug. The problem I see is I can understand someone's frustration where they feel like they've been following all the advice and they're not getting where they need to be because they've been given the wrong advice. And I had a lady only last week say to me, she only needed to lose about 5 or 6 kilos. And she said, my doctor said the only way I will lose this weight is to take these drugs. I cannot lose it any other way. And that upsets me. The other thing that bothers me is that people are taking the drugs and they're not well informed. So while there are side effects, which I won't go into, which can be quite detrimental to our health, but the one I'm most concerned about is that 40% of the weight we're losing on those drugs is lean tissue. That means muscle and bone. So if you're a 20-year-old guy, might not be such a problem. But if you're a 40-plus-year-old woman, you're not getting that muscle and bone back ever. If you stop taking the drug, then you'll rebound and regain all that weight you lost, but not in muscle, in fat. So my concern is in 5 years' time, do we have a global metabolic dysfunction problem far greater than we have now?
Does that keep you up at night?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. And I understand people's frustration. And if you're told that that's the only way you can do it, then, and it's, that's what our doctors are telling us, but it's not the only way. And if you do choose to do it and that helps you, a lot of people say it helps with the food noise. Food noise, by the way, is insulin resistance. But if that's something that you need and you've decided to do and that's your choice, it's not an either or. It's not I take the drug or I eat healthy and train. It's not, they're not the two choices.
Yep.
There's only one choice. Eat healthy and train. And if you've chosen to take the drug to stop the food noise for a period of time to allow you to make that change, then that would be the best way to use it if you're choosing to. But it's not instead of eating properly and exercising. In fact, you need to do that more so if you're taking that drug.
So what are the other ways? What are the other ways that women can lose weight if they're wanting to do that?
Nutrition is one of the most confusing parts of health for women, with lots of conflicting information out there. And that's why Fernwood has partnered with AstonRX. Their online, evidence-based programs help you understand your body, reset your metabolism, and feel your best. It's the perfect companion to your workouts, giving you the tools to fuel your body and create lasting change. Did you know Fernwood members get 6 months of AstonRX support included in their membership? Find out more at fernwoodfitness.com.au.
It's really critical that we take the time to learn about how our body functions. And, that's what we do in our program. The education and support side of it is the most important. So it's about improving your metabolic flexibility and reducing insulin resistance and starting to understand what it takes to maintain a healthy body at whatever life stage you're in.
And would that be different? So I'm assuming that's going to be different from someone who's listening in their 20s versus someone who's in their 30s versus 40s, 50s, 60s. There's got to be some variation.
There's some variation on the rate of result. If you're starting and you're in your 50s and you've already lost 10% of muscle tissue because you haven't been training, you're kind of starting behind the 8 ball. The great news is we can gain muscle at any age, but it might take you a little longer to ramp your metabolic rate back up again than someone who's in their 20s. But we have a human body with all the same biology and all the same processes as the woman next to us. It's just a matter of how far we've let it deteriorate or not, and how fit and strong and capable we are to move forward.
What would the time frame be if one of your clients was using your plan to the letter of the law, they had a goal in mind? How quickly could they, for want of a better word, reset their metabolic flexibility?
Depends again on where you're starting from, but most people will notice within that initial 28 days, within the initial 4 weeks, a reduction in, things like knee pain or joint pain, so inflammation. They'll notice, obviously, they're losing weight and they've tried everything, they often say, but now they're losing weight. So they feel like they're getting on top of that. Better sleep, more stable mood, lower appetite, no cravings, hunger's sort of gone down and now they're just happy to eat their meals. All of these things start to happen within a short time. Your body is incredible. It is incredible. You just need to be kind to it, give it a bit of self-love and allow it to get back on track. The thing is, we often use restrictive diets and exercise as punishment. This is what women tend to do. It's not punishment. For me to go to the gym, it's self-care and self-love. It's my happy place because I'm doing something for me and it feels good and I know it's good for me and I need it physically and mentally. I really need it. So I have a different approach to it and that's how I look at it. It's definitely not punishment. And if I viewed it in that way, I would probably hate exercise.
There would be so many people listening who do. right? What can we tell them that it's going to be okay? That whatever you're feeling, whether that be fear or shame or apprehension of even just taking a step into a gym.
This is the beauty of Fernwood and having a female environment, because I think there's more empathy there for that. And I think women can feel comfortable in that environment. Gyms are intimidating if they're full of, grunting men throwing weights everywhere
Loud.
that might be looking at you. I think, in a female environment, it's comfortable. The women there have often had the same journey themselves, or are in the same journey themselves, even those who are working in the clubs. So I think it's the perfect place to start.
Weight is such a personal thing. People feel about it so many different ways, but it affects literally every single aspect of your life, or it can. When people have such an emotional attachment to that, how do you cope with it? Because that's coming straight at you as well. A lot of the trauma and the pain and everything that they've gone through in them.
Well, I always say you can't pour from an empty cup. So for me, keeping my cup full is important. And that means my own self-care. So, staying strong for me physically translates into mental and emotional resilience as well. And I love my job because once I break through the strong beliefs, the emotional attachments, the stories we tell ourselves that are just no longer serving us well, they may have once, but our bodies change, particularly as women over the decades. And I think once I can explain to people why, give them a really solid understanding of it, and then they try it and then they experience exactly what I said would happens, then the joy that they get from that and the empowerment, it's not actually about the weight. Even if someone comes to me and says, I need to lose weight, when you dig a little deeper, there's a lot attached to that. It's about our own self-worth. It's about our self-confidence. It's about the way we view ourselves and, if we love our body or ourselves enough. And I actually had one lady last week said to me, I've decided to make friends with my body again. And I love that because it actually made me cry because I just thought it was so profound. Such a simple thing that she said, but it really meant a lot. And she said she realized that it was her actions that had been causing her body to not respond. And if that was a friend, she wouldn't do that to them. She wouldn't treat them in that way. So she's going to treat her body more like she would a friend and give it care and love and empathy and give it all the tools that it needs to heal and repair.
Well, that's the thing, right, is when we're so much meaner to ourselves, because it's like I would never think about one of my girlfriends the way that I think about me sometimes.
And if one of your girlfriends had an episode where she binge ate something, would you say to her, right, get to the gym and you're not coming out until you've done 10 Ks of running on the treadmill and an hour of weight training? Now, off you go, you're a failure.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Not. Of course
not. But then people do it to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the first thing I'd be like, you fail, you're awful, you're useless. Yeah. How could you do this?
Yeah, you've got no willpower, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And if you tell yourself that often enough, guess what? You believe it.
Is it ever too late for us to work on this?
Your body can change and improve your metabolic function at any age. We reverse type 2 diabetes on our program every day. So it can actually go completely into remission, and their doctors have taken them off the drugs. Doctors have taken people off drugs for blood pressure, for cholesterol, for inflammatory issues. There are so many things that can change. We just accept that it's common to take drugs as we get older. It's not normal. It's a sign of dysfunction, and we're treating the symptom instead of getting to the root cause. We don't want that root cause to be this cascade of symptoms and disease that progress. But your body can build muscle and improve metabolic flexibility at any age.
How does stress affect all of this?
It's really underestimated for its impact on our physical and mental health. So when we are, and stress can be one night of bad sleep. So
that can have an effect.
If you have one night of bad sleep, the whole next day you are highly insulin resistant, which is why you're craving sugar, which is why you need more coffee, which again, by the way, has a direct cortisol response and pushes you back up again. So cortisol, the stress hormone, puts us in this fight or flight mode. And that means that your body thinks you're in huge danger. And through evolution, that's been to run away from a tiger for 5 minutes. But when you're doing it for 5 years or 10 years or longer and it's chronic and you're constantly in fight or flight, your liver is pumping out glucose into your bloodstream to propel you away from danger, but you're sitting in your car in a traffic jam or at your desk. So you're not running from anything, but your body's having a physiological reaction to that stress. And these things are causing metabolic inflexibility and disease in a big way.
My gosh, now you've got me. I'll be like rocking in a corner thinking back to all my breakfast television days. My terrible sleep.
Like anyone who does shift work,
Yeah.
it does have an enormous toll.
We always see those news stories. I'm there always reading them constantly, being like, oh, another survey's come out saying if you've got terrible sleep, you're going to die sooner. Oh, great.
It's very stressful. I mean, nature wouldn't have decided that we need to spend a third of our life doing something, sleeping, if it wasn't really important.
Is it good to have coffee or bad to have coffee?
Depends how much and when.
Let's say, for just randomly, 3 coffees a day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the mid-morning, 1 in the afternoon.
Takes your body a minimum of 10 hours to process 1 shot of caffeine. So think of your bedtime and work backwards 10 hours. That's the latest you should have coffee. So otherwise, it's going to impact your sleep. Whether you think it will or not, it's going to impact your sleep. 2 single-shot caffeinated drinks, tea, coffee, green tea, any of those, 2 shots before midday. Keep in mind that some long blacks have 4 shots in them. So 2 single shots of coffee before midday, preferably at least 10 hours before you go to bed. If you have more coffee than that, you can have a direct cortisol response to that coffee, which means that you're in fight or flight all day long.
Sugar, good or bad?
Bad.
Bad. Bad.
Bad.
Just bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to just send your blood sugar sky high. There's no nourishment in it. Makes you crave more sweet.
How does your blood sugar affect your daily life?
Well, you'll be on a roller coaster. So if it's rising and crashing, normally if it rises too high, you had something sugary, it'll rise very high in your blood, but then insulin will overcompensate because it's been too high and push it too low. When it drops too low, oh, I need something sugary, or I need another coffee, or I'm having a slump. And so it just puts you on this constant anxious roller coaster for the day. The first thing people notice when their blood glucose is stable on the program is they feel calm. And I see it in them. After the first week, people who come into our office, you can see this wave of calm.
People who sign up to one of your programs, Donna, what can they expect?
The 28-day metabolic reboot program is the one that most people will come into first. Now, it is strict for the initial 28 days, and it needs to be because it's more of a therapeutic lifestyle intervention. So what we're doing is we're retraining your body to readily access stored fat for fuel when you're probably a metabolically inflexible glucose burner. Whether or not you're overweight doesn't matter. It's not calorie counting. It's not calorie restrictive, but the meals are balanced. There is metabolic rest periods in between the meals and no snacking. And there's a very specific list of foods that you can eat, which are chosen specifically for their ultra low impact on blood glucose and insulin. Once you've achieved that metabolic flexibility in that initial 28 days, then we have what we call our life program, which starts to reintroduce foods, and now your body's in a position to be able to better manage them. Usually the first week is the most challenging, especially if you're someone who has been eating a lot of sugar, has been grazing, has very high levels of insulin resistance and poor metabolic flexibility. They're really going to notice the difference, and it's quite a contrast. Those who have eaten quite well over a period of time slide into it pretty easily. So everyone's starting from a different place, but my team are there to support regardless of what your goal is and regardless of where you're starting from.
Let's put an exclamation point on this episode. What are the key takeaways, key messaging that women need to know?
They need to know their metabolism isn't broken. They need to know that changing their diet and lifestyle is not about losing weight. That may be one symptom they're experiencing, but it's about taking back control.
You have this body for the rest of your life. I mean, that's just facts. We've got to take care of it, and we can't just keep pushing it to the side, pushing everything else in front of it because you think, oh, I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. You have to actually make the time.
Health span, which is different to lifespan. So lifespan is how long we live. Health span is how long we're healthy for. And globally, that number is 63 years, which means we spend more than 20 years of our life sick. So for someone sitting here who's 58 years old, 63 is a scary number. And I think for most of us, it should be.
Donna, where can we find your programs? What's coming up for you?
AstonRX.com. So we have partnered with Fernwood. So as Fernwood members, you actually have access to the program and all the support that's involved as well. And then obviously that coupled with the great training that you're doing at Fernwood, it's perfect match.
And if you've enjoyed listening to this episode as well and feel that you've gained a lot out of it, almost as much as me, make sure you share it with people that you love because they're probably going to get a lot out of it too. See you in the next episode.
Thank you for tuning in to Fernwood Unfiltered. If you learned something from this episode, help support the show by hitting follow and leaving a quick review. It's free, takes 30 seconds, and helps more women find us. Thanks again for being part of our Fernwood Unfiltered community. We'll catch you in the next episode.